Hello and welcome. These are horse racing selections for Monday, the 18th of March. I am Flatcap Callum and I'm hoping you're all very, very well. We have reached the last week before I go on a long break. A long break. 6-month break is the plan. So we have got this video plus potentially 4 others before I go on a break. Last video is scheduled to be Friday night for Saturday selections. So last week before the break, last week to see what we can do about the situation on the profit and loss. I'd love to be able to say to you we've arrived at International Positivity Week, but for those of you who were here last year will remember International Positivity Week was a made-up festival in April. Fortunately, what we have got this week is International Week of Cheer. So it's the week of the year where you cheer for lots of things. You find things to cheer for. You celebrate everything, and you know if you want to say to somebody that you like what they do, you cheer for them. Okay, so it is International Week of Cheer. So I didn't plan it like that, and obviously with made-up festivals, you never know where they're going to be. But yeah, we have arrived at the International Week of Cheer. So hopefully, it's the week of International Cheer, or the International Week of Cheer, whichever way you want to describe it. International Week of Cheer, IWOC. That's what we're on. IWOC. Yeah, that sounds right. And that's where we are. So we'll see what happens with the International Week of Cheer. In terms of what I've got for you for this Sunday scheduled, albeit not usual schedule, but scheduled Sunday, focused on the meeting at the Curragh. So usually the Irish Lincolnshire meeting is on a Saturday or a Sunday. Because of when St Patrick's Day has fallen, I think they've basically put it on the Irish Bank Holiday Monday, because St Patrick's Day is Sunday. Obviously, if you're in Ireland, you know that. But because it's on Sunday this year, they've got Bank Holiday on Monday, and therefore we've got Irish Lincolnshire on the Monday. So we are bookending with the Lincolnshires. Irish Lincolnshire Monday, the Lincolnshire on Saturday, and that is what we will be doing on the last day of selections on Saturday. So everything I've got is at the Curragh. Just done a £10 half-day stake, 1 Yankee and 1 combination double across my 2 preferred races at the Curragh. So everything's at the Curragh, not looking at anything else. And then in terms of for the rest of the week, I'll see what we can find, if I'm happy with anything for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, before we get to Saturday, where we'll have the Lincolnshire. That is the plan. Before I go through the bets, review of Saturday, that won't take very long. 7 on, 0 back, 1 second place. The others weren't very good. That's where we are. So we ended horrendous week on -95, -168 for the month, -337 for the year. That's where we are. We are, 2,600 up for like 2 and a bit years. I think that's where we are for context. All stats are in the description. I think stats are important. Not everybody cares. It'd be very easy to just come out here every day and just do vids with selections and not keep any stats about it. But I think stats are important. I keep lots of stats, way more stats than I put on here than what I keep for myself. And certainly in my kind of sabbatical away from YouTube, I'll have a lot more time to do a lot more data analysis, to see where I can find, where I can refine what I'm doing. And that's, to be honest, that I usually spend more time doing that kind of stuff. So going back and looking through things, working out where there's a better margin, where there's actually negative margin, and therefore scrap that out and do that instead, and that kind of stuff. So I shall be doing a lot of data analysis. It's interesting. There was a comment on the weekend from D-Man, and I really subscribe to the viewpoint, which is, and he's somebody who's been a long-term follower of the channel, and we've had a little bit of kind of email exchange and stuff, and I really respect his view and form reading. And his view was that it's much harder at the moment to find value, because his belief is that the bookies have kind of got their act together, and are pricing up markets more accurately. And I almost agree completely. The bit I'm not sure about is, I think it is harder to find value at the moment, and I don't think that's just time of year necessarily. But part of me, as I mentioned on a previous video, I do think it's to do with the actual margin that bookies are taking. It's hard to find real true stats to look at over a period of time. But my spidey sense is, because it's getting harder for them to make as much money as they would like to make, they are taking a slightly better margin, and that actually, from a pricing up point of view, there's a few percentage more going their way, and that percentage, that can be in the small margin sometimes, in terms of, well, normally you'd find it at 50 to 1, but if it's 25 to 1, it doesn't actually make much difference to the over-round figure, but it does make a difference when you're backing outsiders to find a 25 to 1 shot that, a year ago might have been a 50 to 1 shot, when in reality it should be a 14 to 1 shot. It makes a little bit of a difference. So I think there is a little bit of that. The thing that I have to say is puzzling me a little bit. Puzzling's maybe a slightly polite word. The example of what we had on Saturday, we had a horse, can't remember the name now. Was it Trip to Rome? Might be in Trip to Rome. Last leg, anyways. It was the 8 o'clock at Wolverhampton. 7s on the channel. We could have got a bit 8s, and then it went down basically 2 to 1 favourite, and just ran no sort of race. And I just feel like there's been far too many of those types of situations in the last few months. So I'm not here to try and make excuses. I'm just musing on my thoughts about the markets and stuff. But yeah, there's just too many where the price has gone right in, and then the horse doesn't run any sort of race. And I know, there's lots of times, and I've said this, there's lots of times where that happens, and it's because the market's made an adjustment. That one wasn't market adjustment at the weekend, and it just something a little bit on the fishy side. That's how it feels, because it's happening too often, and not specifically just with horses I'm backing. I see it happen in other situations, but it really is like price crashes are not leading to betting coups and stuff like that. It happens on occasion, but there's too much movement in the market that isn't actually to do with any sort of insider knowledge, and therefore it makes you wonder what else is actually going on. Anywho, there's some musings for you. So, Curragh bets. I'll give you the Curragh bets. Change of scenery, innit? Flat racing in Ireland, not on the all-weather. We've been missing that, and yeah, the jumps has not been kind to me this winter. So change of scenery. We'll see what the Irish flat racing can do. That it's really heavy going at the Curragh. There's not an inspection, but it's going to be heavy going. So generally speaking, at the Curragh, first meeting of the year, and it's heavy going. You really want horses that can show that they've been on heavy going before. Personally, I'm not going to get too wrapped up in draw bias at the Curragh. It can vary from meeting to meeting. It can vary from where the pace is. Generally speaking, there's not a strong bias, and I think if the only issue with the horse you've got is you think it's drawn on the wrong side, at the Curragh, that's not a good enough reason. So I've kind of not worried so much about draws, just gone for what I think are the best horses, and best horses in conjunction with value. But generally speaking, I've got some shorter ones, and what you've got on the Curragh, you've got three handicaps with like 20 odd runners. One of them's a bit more than that, and then you've got the 5 furlong one, which I think is the hardest race, which has got 13 runners, so 4 places. So there's some nice extra places available for it on there. It pays to look at horses that have got form coming well, doing well first time out. So you got to try and get the combination of looking at horses that are have run well first time out, horses that have either run over the all-weather or the jumps, which might not be their preference, but they've basically got fit from it, and therefore they're in a better place. Those kind of 2 things, and the third thing you want to take into account is horses that are a 4-year-old running in some of these open handicaps who were a 3-year-old last year, obviously, but therefore have got a larger amount of progress to do. So 4-year-olds, experience of running well first time out, or horses coming off the back of the all-weather, or the jumps who have got some fitness. That's generally where I'm looking at. Okay, this is it. So main bet I've got here is 205 I think that 205 is above average in terms of there is a lot of really well handicapped horses. It's the type of race where I've gone for what I think is the best value horse. But if you were picking and blind, and you know, I went through all of this Saturday before there was any prices up, and actually in terms of shortlist of really well handicapped horses, I got to 7. There's quite a few of them had run the same race, but I got to 7. And there's only 13 runners. And so when the markets came out, this is the one that came out best. But it was not much in it. So it's the type of race where I would be looking afterwards to see which horses finish basically outside the top 3, because they're likely to drop a few pounds before next time, and they were potentially well handicapped to start with. So it's an interesting race to look at from once the race has happened, what finished further down the field, because next time out in similar conditions, they may well do particularly well, because I think there's a lot of well handicapped horses. So anyway, 205 Polar Bear 16 to 1, 410. This is the Lincoln. I've gone through it lots of times. I wanted to keep the McGuinness horses on side because he does really well and he chucks lots of darts at it. He's only got 3 this year, but I've left them for the combo doubles. Number 1 pick was quite comfortably Simply Sideways. You've got ground, distance, freshness, all of those things are fine. Jockey booking then on top of that is like icing on the cake. Bowen's ridden, what's he ridden? 8 times for the trainer, won 5 times. So that's a brilliant record. That's sort of like on top of it. But I think the horse will be ready to go. So Simply Sideways is in as number 1 pick for the Irish Lincolnshire. The 440, I've gone back through this a number of times, and I've ended up with what is currently just the favourite, Superior Force at 5 to 1, which I know is not really what you'd expect from me. It's 23 runners, there's 3 reserves, so 23 runners are potentially going to go there. There's a watch out in there that the first couple of reserves, if they do run, they're going to be shorter in the betting, and therefore that might potentially push that horse out. But basically, when I did it, it was clear. It should have been clear favourite. It is the favourite, but I can absolutely see a world where that horse goes off even shorter than 5s. If some of them reserves get in, I can see the horse going off a little bit bigger. But as 5 to 1, I know it looks a bad price by my standards, but it's 5 places and it's better than even money to get placed. So there was a lot of other ones that were not quite as good from a form read point of view, but more around the 8, 9, 10 to 1 mark. And yeah, just overall, Superior Force came out on top. So I've left it in there for the Yankee. And in the 5-10, like all the others, it's a tricky one, but Master Garvey was the one that stuck out for me in terms of back in on conditions that should suit when it's been run in less favourable conditions. So Master Garvey at 9. So 20p each way Yankee, 50p each way singles on the top 2, the 16 to 1 shots. That's Polar Bear and Simply Sideways. 60p win single on Master Garvey at 9s. At £7. Sky come out best, so I think it's Sky are 5, 6, 6, 5, something like that. 3, 6, 5 are second best in terms of place terms, and then everybody else is pretty much of a muchness. So for the stats wise, unless there's lots of non-runners, we'll be taking 4, 6, 5 and 5. That's what most bookies are paying, 4, 6, 5 and 5. £7 is the bet. That's that. And then combo double. I mean, I have to say I did debate about even leaving out that 205 because I think it is quite tricky and doing combinations across the last 3 races. But the middle one, I couldn't find bigger prices that I was happy with, and the extra couple of numbers of runners made it statistically worse. So combo double between the Lincolnshire. So we've got Simply Sideways with 2 of the 3 McGuinness horses. Casanova. It looks. If you read it bare form, it was on the downgrade at the end of last year, but it generally runs better at the beginning of the year, and it's plummeted in a handicap mark. And he gets them ready. He peppered the finish last year and the year before. Last year particularly well. It was, I don't know, something like 2nd, 3rd and 5th or whatever. So Casanova's in, and then Toast and Wish. I think interesting jockey book in Declan McDonough. He doesn't ride lots of stuff for McGuinness. And yeah, this horse could be one of those ones that's sort of just been kind of got ready for this race potentially. So Toes and Wish at 10s, and the 5-10 Master Garvey, and I've added in the Old Boy Downforce. Very long break coming off here. It has won off a break before, but I think last ran in June, so that's much longer than usual. Usually the horse runs until sort of September, October, November, and then has a break and comes back. So the watch out there is how well is the horse. I can't believe a horse of 12-year-old on the flat. I mean, there's not many of them knocking about. That they were going to bring the horse back after 8-9 months, unless they thought it was showing something at home. And because it's been off so long, and because of the age, the handicap mark has given it so much leeway. I couldn't let it out, and that's why I think price-wise, you're not getting much value on a 12-year-old on a handicap. It's one first time, loves the Curragh, loves the heavy ground, and yeah, the handicap mark looks ridiculous, because if it wasn't for the age of the horse, I don't think the handicap mark would have dropped down. I think it's like £8 or something like that. That wouldn't have happened. So yeah, £3 is the bet. 6 times 25p each way. So I've written singles, numpty. Anyway, doubles. You know what it means? Doubles. If you're not reading the transcript, doubles. 6 times 25p each way. Doubles. Not singles as I've written there. Doubles. So 3 times 2 makes 6. There we go. Sky Best, because you've got 6 and 6. Everybody else is much of a muchness, which is 6 and 5. £3 is the bet. That's bet 2. So £10. That is what I got for you to start the week. What the other thing I was going to say, I haven't read in detail all of the comments from the last video, but it was very, very humbling. I think people got the memo that I was feeling it a little bit, and there's just a lot of support, and I just massively appreciate it. I know people appreciate the channel, but when people express it like that, it does mean a lot. And just to be reminded sometimes of the impact it's had, and I appreciate it's a long run, and there'll always be people on the sidelines, trying to be smart and clever, but the vast majority of people are very kind and very supportive, and yeah, that was really, really lovely to read a lot of those, and I need to go back basically, and I will go back and reply to quite a few. I haven't had a chance to do that yet, so thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things, I've said it a number of times, but when I started this 2 and a bit years ago, it's the bit that I massively underestimated. This is sort of the community that can get built on a YouTube channel, because you don't see it in all YouTube channels. You see it in places, but actually how you can build a community of people who are supportive and decent folk, and just appreciative, because some people will never understand, and this is not about trying to make loads of money or look at me, I'm so clever. This is about trying to show people who have been long-term losing gamblers a different way of doing things that's not just backing short price favourites, and trying to demonstrate to the naysayers about accumulator bets, where people are like, they're stupid. The maths is pretty simple. If you've got value and you put them in an accumulator, the value multiplies. If you haven't got value and you put them in an accumulator, the value gets even worse. So if I've got value, it'll accumulate. So the key is, if you've got value, accumulators are better because it accumulates. But you have to be very, very, very patient, because it's a long-term game. That's how it works. If on days when it's gone really, really badly, it exponentially looks even worse, because I'm churning out lots and lots and lots of horses. And that's the other thing I'm trying to demonstrate here, is you can have a little bit of fun, right? If you're a hobby punter, and actually back multiple horses in a day and still come out ahead. Right, most people lose. So if everybody on follows the channel can come out with a little bit ahead, which in the long term they will do, but in the short term absolutely haven't, and I know that, and that doesn't feel very nice, and that's what I talked about the other day. But that's part of the gig. So anyway, that's me rambling on. We'll save some of this stuff for later in the week. So yeah, I said I'll see what I can find later in the week. So expected next video is Tuesday night for Wednesday selections. But yeah. Here we go. International Week of Cheer. That has started. Let's see what happens on the International Week of Cheer. Whether on day 1 at the Curragh we can have a cheer. All right. Thank you very much. Have a good start to your week. Bye bye.